Welcome to the entire audience. Medal of Honor recipient Matt Williams is going to be talking with us here, but I just want to give a little background with the audience in case anybody's new with us. I focus these webinars on educators, especially those of you who are here with your classes, and I am so excited to see so many teachers who are watching with classes. That is pretty cool. We've had a few months where we've had a lot of educators and a lot of people signing in from home. So it's great to see some classes back at it. Because of that, as Matt addresses your questions, I may occasionally point out where they can be useful in character classes, because specifically we're here with the Medal of Honor Character Development Program, which is the Medal of Honor Society's education program and their legacy for students. And I would point out that if you're new to the Medal of Honor and to these webinars, the Medal of Honor is awarded to our servicemen and women in this country for gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of their life above and beyond the call of duty. So it is the highest and most exclusive of all military awards, and we are very honored to have one of the only 69 living Medal of Honor recipients here with us today. So, Matthew, you said I could call you Matt on this. Thank you for that. And welcome. I know you've been very busy, and it's good to have you here. Would you start off today, especially for our students who are with us, tell us a little bit about what it was like back when you were a student and what it was like growing up as a kid in Texas?
Yeah, so it's becoming more and more of a long time ago as I unfortunately get older. But it was interesting. It was before all technology and stuff, so this situation wouldn't have been a thing, which is an interesting time, but also a great opportunity. So we in this time of a pandemic, we still get to communicate and interface, so that's great. But it was fun. I grew up in a small town called Bernie, Texas, right outside of San Antonio. Went to high school there. Played sports growing up. Was kind of taught hard work and ethics and things like that by my dad at a young age, and kind of carried those with me. And all those things were reinforced kind of by my teachers growing up, which I think is it's a benefit to being in a small town where kind of everybody knows you and you're accountable everywhere you go. So that's kind of growing up. That's pretty much how everything was for me.
Was there anybody in particular? One of our students asked from Madison Central School District in South Dakota. Anybody in particular who inspired you when you were a young person to go into service or become a Green Beret specifically?
It's interesting. Not specifically to be a Green Beret or go into service, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. But the kind of short answer is really my dad, kind of just the way that I was brought up and the things that he taught me and the lessons that I learned from him really instilled the need or the will to serve. And so, learning about integrity and honesty and selflessness and all those things growing up from my father really helped me kind of along my way. And for me, I was actually in college when September 11th happened, and I'd always wanted to do something about service. I was looking at going into federal law enforcement or any type of law enforcement, and then when our nation kind of became at war, I started doing my research, and I found the Special Forces Green Berets. I found what they did. I found their mission, and all those things really kind of called to me. They're known as what's considered kind of a force multiplier. Our main mission is to go to countries and free the oppressed is literally our motto. So, we go in and train other nations' armies and militaries and work with them to kind of fight off the evils within their borders, so we don't have to do it here at home.
That's such an important point for our boys and girls, and not just boys and girls of elementary school, but our students on through high school and young adults to be aware of, I think, is that mission to free the oppressed elsewhere. So thank you for bringing that up. One of our students who's a Civil Air Patrol student in Montana asked if what helped you learn Fortitude when you were growing up?
I was Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of that came from playing sports. I think I started playing sports at a very young age. Um, started football very young, football, baseball, kind of the typical sports, but was taught through that, and then again through my dad, never to quit. No matter what. So, once you start, you finish what you're doing, that kind of stuff. And I carried that kind of through high school. In my first, job, worked at a feed store and doing that kind of stuff. And that kind of carried with me throughout my military career. And it's interesting that you bring up the word fortitude. I think that's an extremely important characteristic and a trait that we don't see a whole lot of, I think, anymore. I'm not sure why that is, but fortitude and having that will to continue on and finish the mission and do what you started and stick by your word is something that's, I think, integral in any young person's kind of character as they develop.
To that end, we've got a student in Fort Worth who asked, how did school prepare you for the military? And I know you weren't going to school specifically to be in the military, and you weren't in ROTC, right? Because you were aiming for law enforcement.
That's correct. Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, did you learn things in school that prepared you for military as well?
I think looking back on it, I think you did. I did. And a lot of that had to do with just interactions between kind of teachers, the hard ones and the mean ones and the ones that kind of held you accountable. All those things that you kind of learn, you don't even really understand that you learned them until they become a reality. The teachers that kind of got on you, made sure you did your homework and made sure you were studying and prepared and doing the right things. All those things are stuff that, hindsight being, you are lessons that you learn to kind of how to develop you as a young person. And so, when you're frustrated by those things, you need to understand that those are all things that are making you a better person that you're may not be aware of at the time. But all of that stuff kind of helped me in my military career. And that's because, I learned those things. I continue those things on now as a leader. I do those things to my young folks. Keeping accountability is something that you learn through organized sports, through school, and all that stuff. That is really what kind of makes you a better person as you grow up.
Some of the students that sent in questions ahead of time actually asked, this is from Macon-Bibb County, Georgia, what kind of training did you do? And then following closely on that, and how much you do or don't want to go into Afghanistan is completely up to you. But students asked, how long were you in Afghanistan? I know you had multiple deployments, and they wanted to know a bit about what you did there.
Okay. So I'll cover the training one first. Special Forces training is pretty rigorous. I joined the military specifically to become Special Forces under what's called an 18 X-ray contract, which is an excellent opportunity to kind of come in off the street and try your hand at the Special Forces. So with that being said, kind of the pathway to that is you join the Army, you go to basic training to become an infantryman. Immediately following that, you go to airborne school to get your airborne wings. And then from there, you get to go to Special Forces assessment and selection. And that's where you really get tested. Upon completion of selection, which is roughly a 21-day kind of grueling, just beat down really of fortitude, right? It tests your mental fortitude and your ability to work as a team. As you get through that and get selected, then you really get into the nuts and bolts of the Special Forces training. I was trained as a weapons sergeant originally. So going through that course, learn about all the weapon systems, all that stuff, and we learned about tactics and small unit tactics and training. Roughly for it's about a year to a year and a half, depending on which specialty you choose. And from there, you get assigned to your first ODA, or Operational Detachment Alpha, which is a makeup of 12 Green Berets, and we're charged with conducting our missions overseas. And that kind of gets me to Afghanistan. That's a pretty interesting question, actually. So I spent,
So,
I don't know.
can I
Sorry.
interrupt for a second?
Yes,
When you
yes,
were
ma'am.
doing Special Forces training, I don't know this, and I'm sure most of our students probably don't. So after you'd already been trained as an infantryman, which to me means marching, and a lot of groundwork, and then airborne, jumping out of airplanes, and all that goes with that. But then the Special Forces itself, which is the specialized training, were you with the same group of team members all the way through Special Forces, not the previous training, but Special Forces itself? And did that same group go with you to Afghanistan?
So to a point, yes, we start with kind of the same group of folks, and they get weeded out as we progress. But once you kind of graduate, you're an individual, and then you get assigned to your own Special Forces group, and then from your Special Forces group, you get assigned down to your own team, and usually you become now the new guy on a team that's already, got a majority of their people have been in place for at least a couple of years.
Okay, so then there's more training with them before you're actually deployed?
That's right. Yes, ma'am. So, in a perfect world, yes, you get to your team and you conduct a good thorough train up with them, and then you go deploy. For me, I actually got to my team, and then we deployed to Afghanistan about a week later. I showed up in early October, and we were there mid-October. We were already in Afghanistan, so I got to learn kind of trial by fire, if you will, on my first deployment into country. With that, though, we train as a team constantly. We were always looking for opportunities to train ourselves and train our partner force, the Afghan commandos, to conduct operations. We never just went out and did anything. Intense training, intense rehearsals, and planning all go into everything that we do always. So, that was my first trip to Afghanistan. I spent about 3 total years there. Over time, done various different missions. Be it training and combat operations with commandos or just simply training missions. Like I mentioned, the Green Berets, our main focus is actually, training and partnering with host nation partner forces to take care of their own security and kind of hand over their responsibility of securing their country to them.
Okay. So how it sounds like, because I keep hearing training over and over, that training was crucial in your actions and the success of your missions in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So specifically for the mission that myself and one of my teammates, Ron Scher, were awarded the Medal of Honor for, training is absolutely crucial to the success of that operation. We found ourselves in a situation that you really never want to be in. We were outnumbered and outgunned pretty much, and at a terrain disadvantage. So we were kind of at the bottom of a mountain, and the village we were assaulting was at the top of the mountain. And unfortunately, that was just really the only way we could get about this mission set. So that morning, we kind of flew in, landed, and immediately got ambushed. And from then on, we have about 100 Afghan commandos and about 15 to 17 U.S. service members, being 12 ODA members, and then some various attachments. And everybody can either be an individual and do their own thing, look out for themselves, or you can come together as a team and fall back on your training. And that's what we did as a team that day. And luckily, because of that, with I think 6 injured Americans and at least 5 or 10 injured Afghan commandos, we left the battlefield with every single American alive. Albeit some pretty bad wounds. Everybody made it home alive because we all relied on our training. We all relied on the cohesiveness we built as a team because of all the hard, difficult training that we've gone through and the trust that we put in one another to do so.
That's absolutely amazing to be in that kind of a situation and to not lose anyone. And that speaks well to all of your teamwork and also definitely to your training and maybe also to some grace, I think. And was that was your second deployment?
That was actually my first.
That was still in your first deployment. So yeah. How soon did you turn around and go back to Afghanistan? Did you get to go home shortly thereafter? And how soon did you go back to Afghanistan?
I did. So the operation that I was received the Medal of Honor for was actually in April, and we were home by I think May or June-ish of that year. And then I found myself actually back in Afghanistan again about 4 months later for our second trip. We just kind of fell in what they called the surge at the time.
Okay. Now, what I think probably a lot of our viewers may not know is that you didn't know at that time that you would be awarded the Medal of Honor for that action. And in fact, initially you were awarded a Silver Star, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. And then how much later did you did you learn that it was upgraded? Was that not until right before it was awarded last year?
Yes, ma'am. So actually I found out, well, I received the award last year, actually in October. And I had found out about the award the previous September. So September 2018 is when I actually was notified of it. And I had just become a team sergeant, which is kind of the best job you can have as a Green Beret. That means that I'm kind of the lead non-commissioned officer of the team, and all the guys are, I'm responsible for the training, preparing of all these guys. And we had a trip planned to Africa for deployment, and I really had my heart set on doing that with them, and I didn't want to let them down. So I kind of asked the Army to postpone any of the medal ceremony or any of that kind of stuff till that mission was over. So it took about a year from notification to actual ceremony itself. All said and done, that was roughly about 10 or 12 years past the actual mission.
Okay. The reason I brought that up is that these days, most of the time, someone who is awarded the Medal of Honor is not allowed back into combat, especially since it's a terror war. And I presume you would all be, even at home, you have to be cautious with security because you could be an easy target. Not that you would be an easy target, you would be a chosen target. But that you were able to continue your career path because you had not yet been awarded the Medal of Honor, right?
So far, and that was kind of my thoughts too, and I really wanted to make sure I did that trip with my team and not let them down. And I have not had the opportunity to deploy since, but I have. Looks like I'll be able to continue to do my job successfully. I've got really great leadership in positions now that they're looking after me and the ability to just continue to be a Green Beret, which is the one thing that I want to do. That's what I love doing. So I've asked for that, and we'll see if it continues.
Excellent. And in the meantime, just thank you for your continued service. And taking the time to do this as well, because I know when you're still on active duty, it's very hard to get time for these kinds of things. So I and all those students out there appreciate that. We have some students who had asked, what kind of character traits, let's see, which school is this from? What kind of character traits do you think are important for kids to cultivate?
So that's actually a great question, and I've touched on a few. And interestingly enough, the Medal of Honor Foundation's Character Development Program, which this is a part of, has listed character traits that I actually firmly believe in, and I think if you use those as a guide, and they kind of encompass the holistic, person that everyone should strive to be. And those are, courage, sacrifice, patriotism, citizenship, integrity, and commitment. And within all of those are several other kind of the key traits that I mentioned already, which are, fortitude and integrity, which integrity is mentioned, but fortitude is one of those other ones that kind of means the same thing, but something I think is super important, as well as trustworthiness, and being a person of trust is something that is extremely valuable. Again, kind of hitting on the integrity button there.
Yeah, I mentioned that we don't have a living history for you yet. Your medal is still very, very new to you, of course, and so that we haven't done a living history yet. But for the audience, it's important to know that your ceremony for being included in the Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon is available online, and that has some interesting background about you and your story. So I would encourage students to go look at that if they can. But one of the things that you talked about there was definitely trust and teamwork. And of course, most of our students will never serve in the military. They have that choice, but it's a completely volunteer military right now. What thoughts do you have on service to country within or outside the military for our students? Why do you think that is important?
Yeah, I get asked that quite often, actually, and I think that everybody expects me to say that everyone should join the military. And while I think that's 100% true, I think service of any kind is actually what makes our country great. The ability to have a choice to serve is something that makes our country great. Not everywhere has that luxury. A lot of places you're told you're going to serve.
Right.
So for us, I think service to country can mean a lot of different things. It's the obvious things, right? Like you can join the military and serve your country in that manner, but you have other folks, and the way I like to look at it is our country is built upon your community and the community that you either live in or aspire to live in. And there's 1,000 ways to serve those various communities, and that's first responders, police, teachers, firefighters. All those folks are all in a position to serve. Other opportunities are volunteer organizations helping folks out, just being a person that's a generous, caring person that's looking out for the betterment of their own community. That kind of thing will spread throughout the country, and really kind of help everybody out. And those options to serve there are endless. And I think that that's a lens with which we fail to look at when we talk about service. I think service gets rolled into the immediate need for the military. And while I think the military is an excellent option, I would encourage anybody that's interested to absolutely join the military. The things that I've learned, the benefits it's provided me are amazing, and they made me who I am today, and who I hope to raise my son to be. It's not the only opportunity to serve. The bottom line is that if you're living your life through service, everybody's better off.
That is a great thought for our students to have in mind. And it also kind of feeds into a question we got from Albuquerque Public Schools in New Mexico, which is, would you talk a little bit about what it means to have initiative? And I'm going to expand on that a bit, maybe in light of this idea of service, that while in a few extreme times we've had a draft, now going into either the military service or certainly any other career, such as you mentioned federal law enforcement and teachers and medical fields and all that, but it requires some initiative. Any ideas on how we can prompt students to really act on initiative? It's a hard question.
That is a hard question. And I actually, it's something that, funny enough, as part of my job, I was an instructor at one point for our close quarters combat and kind of advanced marksmanship school. And when you're teaching people how to clear a house, initiative is a number one priority, because if you are slow to think and slow to act, you get bogged down, and that's a dangerous situation to be in. So I had the opportunity there to kind of teach initiative through necessity. So it was a little bit easier. But generally, just teaching initiative, I think the biggest step is that people have to just act, and be comfortable with themselves, and be comfortable with the decisions that they've made, and be comfortable with failing if that's what happens. But ultimately, initiative on the battlefield is what causes winners and losers. If you don't have initiative, you lose initiative on the battlefield, then it's a bad day for you. Initiative in life is breeds success. And I think that you can, there's 1,000 leadership quotes and books and folks that will tell you that everything that they've done throughout their life is based on the ability to take initiative and not worry about what the guy sitting next to you thinks, or not worry about what he does, but you're doing what you want to do, what you feel is right, and take initiative to be that person, or do that take that step, or build that company, etc.
I've heard a lot of Medal of Honor recipients over the years from all different conflicts. And I had the privilege of working with some of the World War II Medal of Honor recipients as well as the more recent ones. So many of you say in regards to your Medal of Honor action, I was just doing my job. And but in circumstances where doing your job probably required a special kind of initiative because it was not in ordinary circumstances, but rather extreme circumstances. So that certainly plays in effectively. We have some questions are coming in that we didn't get ahead of time, and so I'm going to try to introduce these just fun things for you and me to talk about a little bit here for our audience. Okay. Do you speak other languages besides English?
Actually, so one of the great things about the Green Berets, the United States Army Special Forces, which I happen to be a member of, is that's one thing that we bring to the table is our foreign language capability. My language is actually, my sign language is French, and I am okay at it. I spent so much time early on in Afghanistan that I actually was able to help, kind of pick up some of their language, Pashto and Dari, and kind of an effectively communicator-ish, but more or less understand what was going on, which is extremely helpful. But I'm supposed to speak French. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the best at it. I could absolutely be better and need to be better at it. But I can do okay.
Well, I brought it up because somebody sent in the question, what are the advantages of being fluent in other languages specifically in the military? But yeah. I think just overall, I mean, I live in California and I, for some reason, also took French. And so you and I could probably embarrass ourselves greatly here to try to have a conversation. But I don't practice it here. And so I wish I had taken more Spanish because I could practice that on a daily basis. But I think that points to it being a skill, and the fact that you picked up that skill while you were there as it was needed might be part of the answer to that question of what uses languages, one more way to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100%. The ability to communicate, one, but also the ability to just understand what's going on around you and your surroundings, especially in a military setting. One thing that we do a lot of is meetings. Honestly, it's whether it's with tribal leadership or district leadership or governmental leadership, and we're meeting with partners and we're meeting with the community in the places that we deploy to discuss certain topics, security, et cetera, like why we're there and how we can help, and at least having a shared understanding of language kind of breaks down some of the barriers initially, even if you do continue to use an interpreter, but having that ability to kind of understand the situation, understand what's going on around you, and make sure that, you kind of know where this two-way communication is going, really helps a lot. So it's extremely beneficial. If you have an aptitude for language, the more you can learn, the better off you are, for sure.
Did the Army try to build your teams around having a group of soldiers who spoke a variety of languages?
Actually, no. So we're regionally aligned. So we typically all speak the same language or the same grouping of languages. So for me, I'm in 3rd Special Forces Group, and our actual area of responsibility is Africa. So our main language now is French.
Okay. And students out there who are listening, if you want to know why French is the main language for Africa, then you need to make sure you ask your history teacher about that, because there's a long history of France in Africa. We always learn all kinds of great things that these discussions. Some of the other questions that have been popping in, let's see, were there any specific lessons, we're backing up here, that your father taught you when you were a youngster that come to mind? Now, I don't know what they mean by youngster, because I know it gets to be a different meaning for us as we get older. So
yeah, absolutely. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but like I said, my dad was one of my greatest influences by far. And it goes kind of to the point I mentioned about your teachers earlier, that sometimes you don't always understand lessons that you're being taught when they're being taught to you. But the main things that he instilled in me early and often was a work ethic, My dad's got one of the best work ethics I've ever seen, and he, through multiple, different opportunities, I'll say, instilled that in me. Whether that's working hard on weekends or whatever. We were fortunate and had a little bit of property, so I got to spend the majority of my time picking up rocks and doing all kind of other things that I thought was nonsense at the time. But they helped me along the way, right? He wouldn't, again, like I said, wouldn't let me quit. And then along with that, integrity and sportsmanship and teamwork really came hand in hand with my father too, because he was very into sports, and me, my brother, and my sister all grew up playing team sports. And I think team sports is extremely valuable when you're young. Just learning how to, sportsmanship and teamwork, all those things kind of are extremely valuable growing up.
Oh, I'm completely with you on that. Any kind of team activity, whether it's football or marching band, they're out there on the
Right.
same field doing entirely different things, but it's all teamwork. So you have a brother and a sister?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
And
But a younger sister and younger brother.
okay. Did you learn to be a leader, or did you get to be an instigator when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was probably an instigator, I guess.
I'm finding I have children who are actually just a little bit younger than you, and as my boys have become men, I'm learning things that they did in the backyard when I might have been fixing dinner that I never would have dreamed of. So I think, though, that they learned a lot from each other and with each other. A lot to be said for that kind of play is definitely the work of childhood in many ways. Um, let's switch over to the Medal of Honor a little bit, because all too often I run out of time to actually address it. And I know that a lot of people are very curious about the Medal of Honor. And we just passed the 1-year anniversary of that medal having been put around your neck. How has life changed, perhaps in ways that you did not expect?
um, it's changed. It's changed a lot, and then it kind of hasn't changed at all. Interestingly enough, for one, I've been graciously given these opportunities, which I really enjoy. Speaking to young folks is something that I learned to like very quickly. I never even thought about it. And the first kind of opportunities I had to speak to schools and interact with kids, our younger folks, was extremely fulfilling for me. And I had a great time doing it, and I still do. I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. And so it's just opportunities like this has been the main thing that's kind of changed. On the flip side of that, luckily for me, work has been kind of the same, and in our community where it's I get to go to work every day, and we just don't bring it up and kind of move on. And I'm just the same. I'm just one of the guys, and I do my job, and that's kind of it. And that's another thing that's been, it's very awesome to see that. And luckily, I'm very fortunate in that manner.
Um, did How old is your son now? 6, I think. Is that right?
4.
6?
He just
4.
turned
Okay.
4 last week.
Well, I was promoting him a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on surviving 3. I'm always impressed
Yeah.
when you pass 3. 3 is a tough age. He's going to grow up somewhat like I did, really, with that only knowing you with that medal. He's not going to remember more of that medal. Is there anything in particular that you want him to understand about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I want him to understand is, that his dad didn't do anything that 1,000 other people haven't done. He was just fortunate enough to, I guess, be recognized for his service to the country. One thing I say when I wear the medal is, there's millions of stories that are just like mine. Men and women every day do things that are go above and beyond the call of duty, and some of them just get recorded, and I guess some of them may not. And so this really represents everybody, all those people that have gone and served and died and not come home, and all those that are out there today doing great things for our country that we'll never hear about. and it's just a representation and something to remember that, you know, our nation, our country, you know, is built on the backs of those who serve and those who are willing to sacrifice for our own freedom, and that's kind of what the represents.
Well, I'm sure he'll have lots of questions for you as he's growing up about that. But it will be interesting to see what it's like to have that be part of his life. I have a personal question. Is your sister's name Amy Michelle?
Yes.
She would like to know who is your favorite sibling, and I'm not going to make.
Yeah, I'm sure she would. Yeah.
Gotcha, Amy. There, I'm seeing the chats pop up along the edge over there. So really interesting questions. Like, what do you think about the what does the Medal of Honor mean to you, and do you think you were destined to get it? I don't know what that question means really, but what do you think about that Medal of Honor?
No, so like I said, the Medal of Honor to me is a representation of our great men and women who serve and have served before me and will continue to serve well after me. You know, it's not, like I said, when I put this on, I don't want people to see me. I want people to see the medal and ask those kind of questions, like what is the medal? What is that for? And it's for service, but it represents all of those who have not been recognized, right? There's very few of us that have, and we're fortunate in that manner. But there's a whole lot more who have not, and those are the ones I want people to remember when they see the medal. As far as been destined to wear it or whatever, no, I don't think so. I think we were, you know, me and my team and my friend Roncher, who also received the medal, were just in a very bad time, and we relied on each other, relied on our team, relied on our training, and we're fortunate enough to all come home. And this is just a part of that.
You know, I think that something that a lot of people who only see the White House ceremony, the gold room, the brass, the president, the presentation, the clean blue medal may not think about is the fact that that probably came about as a result of what was one of the worst and best because you came through it successfully, but worst days of your life in terms of the challenges that you faced and the challenges that your teammates faced and the wounds that also came, the sacrifices that went with it. And I think that that's part of why this is so important. And kind of to that end, we've had a whole bunch of questions today. Are you going to be in a movie by any chance? I'm just curious because
not that I know of.
Okay, the reason I'm asking, I've had a whole bunch of questions about do you think that special forces are represented fairly in movies, and do you think that they're accurate? And the implication is that you have a lot of time to watch movies about special forces, but I happen to know that you've been out there being special forces, so it's probably not a lot of movie. But what do you think about the kinds of things that our audience is seeing on movies compared to your personal experience?
You know, to be frank, I haven't seen some of the newer movies that represent special forces. I've heard that they're good, and I just haven't seen them because I haven't had the time to watch them. And I'm sure that they're representative. I know the story of a couple, you know, and I know they're well represented. But you know, I think one of the best movies that represents Green Berets is the movie The Green Berets with you know, John Wayne. And then, of course, the best one probably to be compared to is Rambo, who is a well-known Green Beret, which is absolutely not true at all. But you know, we can still call it one.
Okay. Thank you for tackling that question. This is usually I don't like to ask questions that I don't have an idea of what the answer is going to be, and so if you don't want to answer this, you say so. But in light of this, I think it's a fair question. What is your opinion of war? It's from a middle school student in Indiana. Wants to know.
Yeah, I know that's actually. It's funny you mentioned that. We were I was actually on my own school Zoom session before this, and that got brought up, and the instructor mentioned a couple of quotes and some things of that nature. But the bottom line is, and the base of it is, my opinion on war is it's an unfortunate reality, but it's also something that it's a necessity. And the reason that is that if you have nothing to fight for, if you have nothing that you're willing to fight for, then you really have nothing at all. And that's a tough, hard fact. But if there's not men and women that are willing to stand up and fight for the country that we live in, then it's questionable as to whether or not we have a country. And then if we don't have a country, what do we really have? That's something that I personally pride myself on is being from the United States of America and living in a free society that allows us to make our own choices and do our own things. And I personally believe that that's 100% worth fighting for. And there's bad sides to war, clearly. But we're all lucky that there's people that are continuing to sign up to this day to take up that, that hard fact.
Absolutely. When you said that there are things worth fighting for, I think that fortunately in this country we are able to a great extent to protect our youth from war. Not like I'm sure you saw young people who faced war, children who faced war every day when you were in Afghanistan. And for our young people here, war is mostly something they see on the news or in the movies or that they hear about secondhand. But it is a reality. And while it's an ugly reality, there comes the question that if you think about it in a personal matter, what do you have that's worth fighting for? And that kind of answers that question in some interesting ways. Let's see. Lots of people want to know what specific advice or general advice you might have to school age students. So I guess we're backing up a little bit again in terms of thinking about what it was like to be a kid in school. I love that you mentioned the hard teachers. I was a teacher for years before I started doing what I do now. And it seemed like I got lots of grumbles about people being too hard, but then they thank me at the end. So, and I think most of us can look at our parents like that too. I mean, my dad was a softie, a soft touch. He was the nurturer in my family, and my mother was a disciplinarian. And I'm so glad I had a disciplinarian. I adored my dad, but somebody needs to keep the order. So, do you have thoughts about what students should be looking for to learn while they're bumping along the way?
Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest things to learn are, the opportunities that you're given just in your school in general. You have the opportunity to go to school, which is not something that everyone in our world gets to say. It's a benefit, again, of living in the country that we live in. So take those opportunities and understand that they are opportunities, and it's worth putting effort into. It's worth putting forth, spending your time and learning and taking in what your teachers have to say. While it all may not seem clear to you now, it will be in the future. I actually had a kid ask me one time what I would go back and tell my 17-year-old self, and I told him very simply that you don't know anything. No matter how smart you are at the time or you think you are, because at 17, we're the smartest people in the world, and we've learned everything that there is to learn. Remember that you're not, and be humble about that, and understand that everyone is taking the time and the opportunity to interact with you and teach you things. Specifically, your teachers are doing it because they love to do it and because they know what they're talking about, and they want you to live a better life.
Thank you. We've got a question. What do you feel when you wear the medal? And thank you, by the way, for putting the medal on, because most people never get to see one, and this might be the closest they ever get to it. So thank you for wearing it. Do you have any thoughts about it when you actually wear that medal, and how do people treat you in public when they see it?
Yeah, the biggest thing when I put it on is it always kind of reminds me of why I wear it and what it represents. And again, like I mentioned, and that's all those that came before me, and it's all those that are willing to step up after me and do what's necessary for our freedom. And and that's the biggest thing. And it being so close to Veterans Day, it has a very special meaning. Representing folks that don't have the opportunity to kind of be home. Remember, there's always folks out there. There's always people deployed doing things all over the world that you may not know about, but it's all for the goodness of our own country, so we don't have to deal with it here. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question, actually?
Do you get what are some maybe funny reactions or interesting reactions or surprise reactions that you see when people see you wearing that medal?
Yeah, the first part. So I'm enlisted, and for those who don't know what that means, so we don't get saluted or anything of that nature. And in the special forces, we definitely don't. We're enlisted guys. We're the hard workers in the military. And that's one of the weirdest things has been, it's kind of customs and courtesy to salute the medal when it's worn. And so, there's been a couple of times where I've been in my uniform and, a officer or someone that I would normally salute with general military customs is saluting me or things like that. And those things still throw me off, kind of catch me off guard. And I get a little confused. It's like wearing a T-shirt that has something on it that you forgot what it says, and somebody makes a comment about it. But it's been a lot of times it's just interesting getting kind of looks. I was fortunate early on, myself and Ron, who I mentioned a couple of times, got to go. Actually, last Veterans Day, we were up in New York City in our uniforms and our medals, and it's just funny walking down the street and you see the ones that know what it is, kind of do a double take and stop and look, or you can see they're kind of thinking about whether or not they're going to come and talk to you. All that kind of stuff is just bizarre.
Now you have the rest of your life to get used to that, though, right?
Right.
Somebody asked what it means to you to be a veteran, but you're still active duty. So I don't know if you want to address that or not. What do you think?
Yeah, what it means to me to be a veteran, is I think, the best way to put it to me is, it means that, and not speaking about myself, if I'm looking at other veterans, it means they're representatives of the best people our country has to offer. It's a representation of the people that, like I said, were willing to, raise their right hand and defend our freedom and defend our country. And that's something that I think it's inarguable when you look at all those who are willing to serve, no matter what they've done, with whether it's carrying a rifle on the front line or back, sorting the mail and making sure guys get what they need, or if you're a computer programmer, making sure that the most updated technology is available and ready for the military. All those things are vital to the freedoms that we hold dear today.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly not just the front line and not just the war that makes the military go and protects this country. That's for sure. I have a couple more questions for you. A couple of them are a little personal. There's one that I think I know the answer to. What was going through your mind when you did those actions that you did that eventually resulted in your medal?
Yeah.
You weren't thinking about it.
No, honestly, the only thing that was really going through my head was, we were looking out for each other. We were separated by distance during my operation a bit due to elevation change. So we had several guys pinned down on like the middle of a mountain, where most of our guys were wounded, and it's easy to assume that you immediately get kind of caught up in the woe is me, what do I do, and that can happen. But luckily for us, it didn't. Nobody did that. Everybody there quickly relied on their training, whether it was instinctively or they had that quick thought process. I don't know. I can't speak for them individually, but for me, I relied on my training, and I knew, that it was up to us as a team to get everybody off the mountain and home. So, and that's something that when I talk about it a lot, I refer to, the teamwork and trust thing. And that was the biggest piece, is that we all knew what we'd done to get to where we were. We've all put in the work and the training. But really what we did was build a bond of trust that we understood wasn't going to be broken by a terrible situation. My buddies trusted that I would be there for them, and I trusted that they would do the same. If I had been the one that's up there, shot through the leg or shot through the hip and couldn't move, I trusted that there would be somebody up, there to come get me. All those guys trusted our medic Ron to do the best he could to save their life, and he did. That was kind of the biggest thing. It's not a lot of thought process went into it. It's more of instinctual action based on the trust we had for one another.
That emphasis on trust is so important. And I had the privilege to see, for our audience's information, there is a video out there somewhere on YouTube that is an interview, and maybe you can tell us what it was from, of you and Ron together. You're both in uniform, black background, and doing an interview together.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Great interview.
Yeah, I think it was, that was something we were fortunate enough to do for We Are the Mighty, actually. It's
okay.
like a website. They have like a YouTube channel and stuff.
Okay. And I point that out because it's a really good interview, and I love that it shows the camaraderie that was there between you and Ron, and that friendship. That was a really great piece to have a look at. Somebody asked, what was your family's reaction when they found out that your Silver Star was being upgraded to the Medal of Honor?
Well, I think if my sister hadn't left yet, she could probably tell it better than me, but they were shocked. They were shocked when I told them about the Silver Star 12 years ago, whatever. And so this was just a whole nother kind of reemergence of those emotions and really just kind of shocked by the whole ordeal. And yeah, there my sister just commented, she sobbed like a baby. That's accurate. It's something that you never expected it, and it's just a thing that had happened. And it was gone, and we'd all, moved on, whatever, no big deal. Continued my career, and then all of a sudden it's back again. And so that was the biggest thing. It was just like, why did this happen now? And kind of disbelief, really. Well,
and thank you to Amy for sharing her answer with us, because it really does. It's something that happens to the whole family. That it's part of all your lives now, and so you've got a bond there that is pretty special. We're almost out of time, so I actually think maybe we'll end on what I hope is a light note. Somebody asked, what is the coolest thing you've gotten to do as a result of getting the Medal of Honor, of being awarded the Medal of Honor?
Yeah. So I've actually been extremely fortunate and got to do several cool things. So far, one of the coolest things I got to do was go to the Super Bowl. That was great. I got to meet my brother. We had a great time. But really, I think one of the best things, and it's something that my wife and I got to enjoy together, was the Army-Navy football game. That's the kind of the highlight of the college football season, if you're a college football fan, and just kind of being there and seeing that in person was an amazing experience, something that we were very grateful for and hope to get to do it again sometime.
Very, very cool. Well, now that you've said that out loud and on the internet, probably you will get a chance to do that again.
Yeah.
Probably know somebody who would be able to do that as well. Did you play football in college while you were there, or only in high school?
Okay, no, just nice.
Okay. Well, we have a ton of comments down the side here saying thank you so much for your service, and I would extend that to Matt. Your service both in the Army and your service with us today for students all over the country. I truly appreciate it, especially here the day before Veterans Day, when I'm sure that you had 1,000 invitations of places to go and things to do and things to speak at. So thank you so much. We honor and respect and salute your service. And let's do this again sometime.
No, absolutely. And I appreciate the invite. And I appreciate everyone that signed on and took time out of their day to come, listen to this. Like I said, I really enjoy speaking to young kids. I hope everybody took something out of it and had a good time. I know I did. Again, I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll turn it back over to Diane to give our educators their information about getting their continuing education.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you, Matt, so much for your service and for sharing these thoughts with us today. I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of our young people. And
Thank you.
thank you. Please visit the Medal of Honor Character Development Program online. You can access lesson plans, learn about other recipients, and more. And please register for the next recipient interview. That's going to be Friday, November 20th at 11 a.m. It's an interview with Master Chief Britt Case Lubinsky, who served in Afghanistan. We'll post that link, and if you're a member, you'll also automatically get an invitation to that. And if you're not a member of our community, you can join at www.edweb.net/CMOH. And thank you once again to Matt Williams and to Kathy and the Congressional Medal of Honor Society for helping us make this possible. And thank you all again. We hope to see you next time.